It's great to welcome back our friend Trent Dilfer to Sports Spectrum. Hey, buddy.
How you doing, man?
I'm great. How are you?
It's always great to see you, spend some time with you, although I saw you a few weeks ago at the Super Bowl.
We did, yeah. That's one of the cool things that you get to do is because I thought maybe with the new coaching job and being a Division I head football coach now, maybe you don't get to do some of the same things you got to do previously, but that was one thing that you got to do. It's Panini, right, that you got to work with? And
I don't. I've had to trim off a lot of my other life, but
I would imagine.
I've maintained that one because it's one night. I don't have to be there for the opening night.
That's right.
This week, we make PAO a
Priority, yeah.
And then we are involved in some other ministries that we make sure we do their founders' weekends or board meetings and whatnot. But pretty much everything else has been stripped away.
Good. Yeah, I can imagine. How's life right now? I just feel like between being a head football coach, and we've heard the stories, you never have downtime. Coaching and is such a grind, and you have 3 daughters that are all married now.
All married,
right? How's that? How's the life? And you got a grandchild with one on the way. Yes. Like life is pretty interesting right now for Trent Dilfer.
I would say if this is the sweetest part of our lives, I think. Doesn't mean easiest. Doesn't mean most luxurious or comfortable, but the sweetest. It's and we can get into this, but coaching has brought out the best in me. I'm my best self now. I'm still a wreck, as my friends would tell you.
Yeah.
But it's the best version of me in a long time.
Why is that?
Challenge. There's a mountain to climb. I'm dependent. I don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
Every day is a potential problem that you have to find a solution for. I think dependent's the easiest word. Like I wake up with the posture of, okay, God, I can't do this without you. And I think that's kind of where he wants us. Yeah. We don't like it, right? I don't. Yeah. I keep getting asked, is this fun? I'm like, no, that's the wrong word. It was fun when I was retired and played golf 218 times in 2018. That was fun.
That's pretty fun.
It wasn't purposeful. It wasn't rewarding. Right. I wasn't passionate about anything. I wasn't my best. Yeah. It's fun, though.
Yeah.
This isn't fun. This is purposeful. This is rewarding. This is invigorating.
Yeah.
This is challenging. And all the things that I think at this stage of my life, I need to be my best me. And then the trickle down of my family, I think they're in a great place. My wife's never loved me more or liked me more.
That's good.
Yeah, it's awesome. My kids see this in me. I think my son-in-laws see it in me. I think they've been inspired. Could you imagine being a son-in-law and looking up and seeing, retired at 51 and, playing golf every day? I think they would go, oh, that's kind of cool. I might aim for that, but then also see all the negative that goes with that too. So
yeah.
I like that they see me working hard. Having a grandkid is the best. I remember Stenstrom called me. He goes, how great is it? Tell me all about it. And I'm like, Steve, it's the best thing ever. Like I don't have words to explain how great it is. And then I just saw him 2 days ago when we got here, and he's like, you undersold it. I'm like, I told you it was the best thing ever. He goes, no, you didn't sell it hard enough.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. We're close enough. We're 2 hours away from my daughter and her husband and our grandson that I get to see him often. So it's just I love being with the kids. I love the messiness. I love the challenges of college football. I think I have a unique perspective on it. And losing was terrible. Going 4-8 was torturous. But I think it also was humbling in a good way. And it just makes the mountain that much steeper. And
totally,
I have the energy to go climb it.
What are those text threads like with your daughters and son-in-laws? And I mean, that just got bigger and bigger, right?
It's the best. So it was started off as Fam Bam. So that was the OG, was Fam Bam. I think my middle daughter, Tori, named it Fam Bam years ago, like high school years. And then it grew to Upgraded Fam Bam with Christian, the oldest son-in-law.
Okay.
And then it was Potential Upgraded Fam Bam when Tori got engaged.
Potential.
Yep. And then finally, when Delaney got married to Zach, I sat down like that night. We were at the reception, and I changed it to "No More Weddings."
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
The family thread
Yes.
is named "No More." Everybody's impressed I knew how to name a thread. First of all,
Yeah, good job, old man.
There's a
right?
victory in that, but they're not changing it either. I also
Yes.
said this will not be changed. I'm celebrating "No More Weddings." Boy, they're expensive.
Oh yeah.
And they're a lot, but we're through that, and all the son-in-laws are amazing kids. We love them, and
That's great.
the girls are in great places in their life.
So if I was talking to the Trent Dilfer that I first met, I want to say it was 2008, 2009.
Yeah, I think it's 2008
when you got to ESPN,
Yep.
right? So I meet you there, and I'm telling you, in 2024, you're going to be head coach at a Division I college. You had gone through all that you went through. You even went back to coaching in high school before you get to college. Would you have just laughed at me at that point, or would you have believed me?
My wife would have believed you. She always thought I was going to coach.
Interesting.
Now, she supported my decision not to coach, and it's always weird, and I'm going to frame this. It's always weird when people go, oh, I had so many opportunities. I don't want it to sound that way, but I had a boatload of opportunities as my last 2 years in the NFL. My last years in the NFL, I was basically a player coach anyways.
Right.
I had a large network of decision makers in the NFL that were very dear friends who I'd been around with. So GMs, head coaches, owners even.
Yeah.
And everybody had kind of targeted me as an immediate quarterback coach, then the OC, then head coach, 4-year fast track from the Al Davises of the world even. I met with Al Davis on this exact subject in 2007. And I made a conscious decision not to coach because I had 3 daughters that were in those impressionable years.
Yeah, probably middle school or even elementary school years.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we sat down and we talked about it. And I just felt very convicted that not saying others can't, that I couldn't be the father and husband I wanted to be with the lure of what professional football had.
Sure.
And I know I don't have an off switch. So how was I going to turn it off when I left the office? Or how was I going to turn it off when I left home? I felt like there'd be that pull on me all the time. And that's why I chose to go into TV. It created freedom in my life to parent the way I wanted to parent, be involved in their lives, chase them around for once, and it was hard. I mean, I wanted to, I wanted to be in the locker room still. I still wanted the thrill of professional football, but did it for my family. Now, my wife, through all this, said, now, as they get older, I want to free you up to be able to go coach. And there were more opportunities that came while I was on TV, not as many. But ironically, because the Elite 11 build was going through that time as well, I had these college opportunities.
Yeah.
And she was mad at one I didn't take. Like I took one immediately we got in as assistant head coach, coordinator at a Power 5 school and in a area of the country she wanted to live for a coach who we knew and she liked and I said, nah, I like this rhythm of life where I can be at all the girls' stuff and live life on my terms without football controlling them.
It's really interesting that your wife was jumping in and saying, hey, this is made for you. So she's seeing something in this. And yet the reasons that you're not doing this, I see it from a perspective as a dad, like these are pretty good reasons here.
Yeah. If I go back and do it all over again, I do think once they were all in high school, they didn't need me as much as I thought they needed me. I think as dads sometimes, especially very involved dads, we give ourselves a little bit too much credit.
Totally true.
Right? Like,
absolutely.
Yes, they need us. Yes, they need the security, the protection, the love, the support. But they can do that on FaceTime. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They don't need us to be at everything.
Yes.
And I feel like I needed to be at everything. And in retrospect, I think I could have made the move at that season of life. And it's interesting because that's the season where TV got dull for me. I got bored. I wasn't nearly as good at it as I was when I first got into it because I wasn't passionate about it. The landscape changed.
Very much so.
We were together as it started changing.
Yep.
It was no longer what I enjoyed about TV, which was teaching. It became about polarization and conflict and hot takes and scoops to this day, which blows my mind. Like, who cares who says it first?
I know.
We're all going to know.
I know.
Who cares?
It's like a big deal in the journalist world, though. But
look
yes,
at me. Yeah.
I know.
Anyways, sole side note.
Yes.
And that's about when I had two really, really, really neat opportunities. Said no to them. Then I get fired, but fired with the golden parachute. So, for 3 years, I'm getting paid the same thing I was getting paid when I worked on TV. So, retired. Got horrible habits I mean, my life now I had fun. I wasn't a bad human. I think my friends that were with me in Austin would say, well, why does he talk about it like that way? I wasn't doing anything egregiously bad. I just wasn't, I had no juice. I had no purpose. I wasn't impacting anybody for better.
Yeah.
It was selfish. At the end of the day, I was living for me. Like, okay, I've checked the box on working hard. I've checked the box on ambition. I've checked the box on wealth. I've checked the box on this. Now it's time to go take care of me. And you have to be wiser. You have to be a little older. I think you have to be walking with God for a long time to realize that it's not what he designed for us. And that's when the calling that my wife knew was coming came. And that
came with Lipscomb, right?
With Lipscomb. And and the time I'm thinking, okay, cool, I'll go coach now. Like, I'll go jump in the NFL and or do all this glamorous stuff. And God's like, no. I'm really going to break you. Like, I'm really, and I'm so thankful he did, because, to have to go to Lipscomb where it was 36 kids the first day I watched them lift, 6 of them lifted with a PVC pipe because they weren't strong enough to lift the bar.
Oh my gosh.
They hadn't had a black coach in the history of their program, I don't think. There was definitely some issues around race within the community.
Sure.
To be called there for something far greater than just to build a dominant program, to see a community change, to see so many lives impacted, to see, kids just change for the better, not just football, but change for the better, was so rewarding. But to bootstrap it, to do it hard, like it was. I lived by myself for 9 months. I lived in a high school office on a couch.
Wow.
Like when my wife was in Texas with my youngest daughter as we transitioned. So there was a lot of hard to that, and it changed me for the better. And I don't think I would have been a good coach if I would have jumped in the first time I went in, because it would have been about ambition. It would have been about XO. It would have been about strategy, tactics, win at all costs, because that's how I was wired. And doing this forced me to the big W. Like, what's the big win? And the big win is lives. It's impacting lives. And we were so fortunate. I say we because it took an army to do it. We were so fortunate to impact so many lives in those 4 years in Nashville, and build something really, really special. And my wife still, I say my wife lives, we still live together. Yes. She splits time between Nashville and Birmingham while we're selling the house, and my daughter, nobody cares.
Yes.
Anyways, they're right next to the school still. So she got to see, like, when we left, how there was an emptiness left. And again, I say we, not me. Like, a lot of us, I took my team with me.
Sure.
And that team had a tremendous impact in that community. And now that part of my team, we have replanted back there, a coach that left with me and was with me at Lipscomb, left with me at UAB, and now we've gotten back to Lipscomb, and now it's back to the way it was. You're starting to see the wholeness and the fullness come back in the community, because that's how football can impact a community.
Yeah.
And then really, I'm all over the place, but I wanted to stay. And I had 3 colleges had reached out to me. 3 were pursuing me. And I limited, if I'm going to even talk to any of them, I'm only going to talk to UAB. And then I was getting ready one evening. I was done. I was working, 6 in the morning till about 7 o'clock at night, 7:30 at night on the state championship run. We had some incredible undefeated streak going on for a long time, and we were dominant, but I was still passionate about, honestly, I wanted to score 100 on a team. That was my goal.
It's good to get that out, right?
Yeah. once I was grinding, and then I would turn it off. My wife and I would eat dinner, and then I'd work till like 2 a.m. on the potential college stuff. And I was just done. I was like, I don't want to do this. I looked at her. I'll never forget. She's across the couch from me. I said, I don't think I'm going to do this. I think we're in a good spot. God has us where he wants us. I'm a better person. We have a better marriage. Our family's in a good spot. And she goes, kind of sounds like when you held on to TV a little bit too long. Kind of sounds like when you're retired. I go, what? She goes, you're bored. What more can you do? You're going to win 100 straight games? Which we probably would have. I'm being honest with you.
No, yeah.
It's not to be arrogant. Like,
no, you had to put up a system in
we
place.
were never
going to
lose.
Yeah.
We were never going to lose unless we started going to California and playing Bosco and Mater Dei, or we went into Texas and played Duncanville, or we were just in a position that in the Southeast we weren't going to lose. And we had proven that by going down and beating Thompson, who was a 4-time state champ, 7A champion in Alabama, beats everybody else. And she goes, you're going to get bored, and the same pattern is going to come up in your life. She goes, you need another mountain to climb. That's a long-winded way of saying how it went from Lipscomb to UAB.
To UAB.
Yeah.
I want to ask you on this wristband that you're wearing, it says fire breathers only. You post this on social media quite a bit. What is the meaning behind that, fire breathers only?
Okay, so Team Red, White, and Blue, have you heard of them? Team Red, White, and Blue is a really neat organization that serves veterans transitioning back into life.
Yeah, that's great.
And a lot of different ways. I don't want to jack up their mission statement, but a lot of it's through physical activity, but a lot of other things. And I want to say it's over 400,000 vets. And Mike Irwin, who's a dear friend of mine who I got to know through Elite 11, and a group of Special Forces guys that are still active, have done some stuff for us over the course of my Elite 11 coaching, Lipscomb, and now UAB. And Mike one time was talking to a group. We were doing a chat, and he called me a fire breather. And I asked, what is a fire breather? And he basically explained it's a term that elite special ops guys or elite leaders call each other. I don't know how much truth. Maybe he's blowing smoke, but I was pretty honored by it.
Yeah,
right?
It sounds pretty great.
So over the course of time, I started kind of identifying people that are like-minded, that have the same passion, have the same fire, that when they impact systems or people or groups, that they impact them in a massive way. And I started trying to identify those people and surround myself with those people and learn from those people and then develop those people. And when we got to UAB, it were the Blazers. And it's a kind of a cartoon character, dragon that breathes fire. And we're in the midst. I jumped in there, and there was no personnel department. They hadn't recruited in a couple of years, blah, blah, blah. So we're putting together, talk about drinking by a fire hose, but we're putting together a personnel department, a scouting department. I'm hiring coaches. I got coaches coaching bowl games at Alabama, South Carolina, Georgia, and then Kirby, Nick, and Beamer letting them drive over to me for 6 hours, 9 hours, a day and a half to recruit because I've hired them. Yeah. And then they're driving back or flying back. Ohio State too. I had 2 coaches from Ohio State. So we had Ohio State, South Carolina, Alabama, Georgia coaches I hired from their staffs. So they're getting ready for these big bowl games, but I need them with me to help start recruiting. And so I was just sitting there late. I had to have been 2, 3 in the morning. I'm like, we need something. Like, we just need something that kind of differentiates ourselves in the recruiting space. It gets these coaches fired up. That introduces us to the Southeast. This is not the old UAB. And I looked up at a Team Red, White, and Blue thing that sits in my office. I'm like, fire breathers. I'm like, that's who we want. Like, I want to recruit. I look at recruiting as very holistic. It's not just talent, right? I want the whole person. I want a certain type of person. I want a certain type of leader. And it kind of fit into what Mike had explained the fire breather is. And I went into the office the next morning. People were showing up, and I wrote it up. I said, what's everybody think? And I was like, that's the coolest thing ever. And we can use like Game of Thrones dragons and graphics. And so we went with it, and it's had good traction, but it means something too. You know what I mean? Like, it means something in our building that not everybody's a fire breather.
How has coaching helped you in your walk with Christ?
Amplified it exponentially, because we get really comfortable when we're talented at anything, and this is just talent in general. When you're talented at problem solving, if you're talented at academia, if you're whatever you're talented at, you forget how dependent you need to be, right? And as a true follower of Jesus and somebody that's at his feet, that he's the king of your life, he's the Lord of Lords, he is your everything, your always. There's a dependence there. But our talent gets in the way of us trusting him a lot of times. And I coasted for a long time. And I just got lackadaisical, complacent, whatever it is. And coaching has forced me in the best way ever to be completely dependent. I was talking to Rod Harrison, who was my chaplain in Baltimore that one year, and everybody goes, "Oh, watch 30 for 30, and you guys, blah, blah, blah." I'm like, that was the most broken I'd ever been. My body was broken. My pride was broken. Our family was we were overwhelmed as parents. We loved Tampa. I thought I was going to be John Elway, Dan Marino, the guy that starts at a franchise and ends there 15 years later. And to be, I was never cut, but they needed to buy back the option to sign me, and they chose not to. And get pushed aside for an inferior quarterback, all the things your ego goes through.
Oh, yeah.
That was a broken year. And I'd never been more dependent in my walk than I was that year. And I saw the fruit of that. Not in winning a Super Bowl, but watched what God did through our team. Watch what he did through me. Just the whole journey we went on. And I'm feeling that again as a coach. And I felt it at Lipscomb. Everyone goes, "Oh, that guy rolls in." That was hard. I was broken for a couple years at Lipscomb. And even the last two, when we're having a lot of success, I was broken in the sense that we were trying to help humans, not just win football games. And you saw the failure sometimes in that, the frustration in that. But that's what coaching does, is it forces me to my knees. Simply said, it forces me to my knees. I know I can't do it on my own. I'm not smart enough. I'm not talented enough. I'm not a good enough leader. I make mistakes all the time. Some are very public. I know I've had a couple things go viral. Yeah. I still deal with my temper. I say stupid things. But at the same time, I ask for my building's forgiveness. I humble myself in front of my building. I share my weaknesses with them. I share my journey with them, so I'm more relatable. And to answer your question, I feel like my walk is as strong as it's probably ever been.
That's great to hear. It's also an interesting time to be a coach in college football. It's like, oh, let me try a new challenge. Well, welcome to this world of college football, Trent Dilfer.
Well, I kind of have an advantage in one, I didn't know the old way. So I did say that. Like, you don't hear me say in my building, hardly ever hear it in my building of, "Oh, wish it was like the way it used to be." I don't know that old way.
It's just the way it is now.
It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So I think, I also have another sign up outside my office, and people know don't come to my office with a problem. Come in with a solution. Like, we're about solutions, not problems. You might have a challenge, but through that challenge, we're going to find a solution to that challenge.
I like that.
So we're not in the business of complaining about the problems of college football. We're not going to complain about NIL. We're not complaining about the portal windows. We're not going to complain about any of it. We're going to recognize that there's some challenges there. We're going to look for solutions to where we get an advantage over our opponent with those solutions. But we're also looking for solutions that help the kid. And I think that's the biggest thing is the narrative right now. Well, I think there's two things that are going on that everybody that cares about college football needs to understand. There's the narrative you're hearing about college football being ruined, right? It's becoming a very loud voice.
Yes, it is.
They're mainly talking about Power 5 football.
Yes.
Okay. So that is
conferences. And
that's mainly the Power 5 realignment, the massive TV money, the massive NIL money, coaches' salaries being enormous. That's mainly they're talking about that. Group of 5 football, which we're in, there's still challenges. The biggest one is we're a farm system. There's truly a haves and have-not. Now, we played Georgia last year in Athens. I think it was week 4. And, you know, nothing really impresses me with college football. I'm a little bit of a snob that way.
It's fair. That's fair.
I don't look at Brock Bowers and go, oh my gosh, that guy's incredible. I'm like, I played with tons of dudes like him.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
it's been 14 years knowing what an NFL player looks like. I play with 10 Hall of Famers. You know, I don't get impressed by college football players. I was watching. I'm like, okay, you can definitely see a physical difference at the line of scrimmage, especially. You could see a staff difference. You know, they're take Kirby and me out of it. Their staff is about a $10 million salary pool, and mine's about a $2.5 million salary pool. So you can look at that.
Sure.
And I'm looking at Muschamp and, you know, these dudes that are assistants that could be head coaches anywhere. Saying, okay, well, they probably have a tactical advantage. They have more manpower. I'm looking at, obviously, home field advantage. They had won 20-something straight games in a row to that point. I'm getting somewhere with this. And I went, nah, we'd play this game 20 times. We're not going to win one of them. You just know that before the game.
Right.
Doesn't mean you can't compete. And we had a 28-14 and a half and went on a 2-minute drill. We put up 400 yards offense on them. Like, we had some success. In fact, their coach was like, oh my gosh, the best anybody's played against us and all that stuff. But there's no chance that we're ever going to beat them.
Right.
You know, last year, I would hope to build a program like Willie built at Tulane where you can go beat a Power 5 team in a bowl game. But that's going to be a big ask. There's a massive discrepancy between the Power 5s right now and the Group of 5s. And that's okay. And I think what you're hearing is the Group of 5s going, oh, woe is me. You know, we want to be more, I want this to be more equitable or whatever. And I'm like, that's not going to happen. Like, Power 5 football is becoming semi-pro football. You'll see it happen in the next few years. And then the rest of us are going to hopefully have competitive equality with economics. I think that's all we can ask for is some level playing field economically. If we have a level playing field economically, then let's see who's best. Let's see who can take those economics and get the most out of them. One of my mentors says coaching and building organizations in professional sports is very simple. It's get the most from the least and the best from the best. Let's go see who can get the most from the least and the best from the best. Yeah. I'll put our group up against anybody in that conversation.
I love that. Yeah.
But I'm not living some pipe dream that I'm trying to compete with Lane at Ole Miss. Good for you, Lane. I've known you since you were 17 years old.
Yeah.
Right? I'll slap you on the back. Good job. You won the portal. Yippee. I don't care.
Right, right.
I'm trying to win football games at UAB, and that's not impressing me, by the way. Like, I'm not ooh and ah over it. And then I think the other narrative is like college football is only about winning and losing, and it's not. It's just not. It's about shaping and molding these young men to win in life. And no NIL, portal windows, dysfunction with the NCAA, or any other challenges that are going on should stop us from still being able to do that.
That's good.
And that's the thing that I am relentless in my building, and to the point where now I think they're starting to roll their eyes. I go up in all rooms and I just put relentless engagement. Like, that's what we do. We're relentlessly engaged in every aspect of this young person's life. We're honest with them. We're transparent with them. We serve them before we coach them. We want to get the most out of them.
Yeah.
We never want to be transactional. Like, we just don't deal with transactions. Now, we've moved on from a lot of players, and people can say, well, how can you say that? You've had a huge roster turnover like Dion. All 56 of those kids have hugged me on their way out the door. Not one of them felt like it was a transaction.
Right.
Not one of them felt like we used them for anything. Everyone know that we gave them everything we had. They either failed to meet a standard, they weren't accountable for themselves, they wanted to try another opportunity, they didn't fit how we're going to do things. There's a lot of reasons why, but they were treated in their time in my program as important as anybody in the building. And we gave them everything we had while they were there. And that's our promise to them, is that we're going to pour out everything we have to you while you're here. And then some are going to win, some are going to lose. That's life. Football's a meritocracy. If you don't believe in that, then stop watching football. Like, the strongest are going to survive. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean the weakest don't still get something out of it.
Yeah.
and
Totally.
we want player 120 on our roster to have as great experience as player number 1 on our roster.
No, that's really well said. He is Trent Dilfer. My last question. I wasn't.
Have I talked that much?
Oh gosh, no, you were great. This is a
brutal.
podcast.
I'm brutal.
I'm just putting the ball on a tee, and you hit it. You hit it, my friend. Do you still look fondly at your time at ESPN?
I looked at it in 2 sections. I just asked this question by Adam Brennan the other day, and I've had some people, I haven't seen it, but I guess when he cut it up for the podcast and showed a little 2 minutes, some people took it as if I was
bitter or whatever.
And
because I was there with you for a good portion of it.
I loved the first 5 years, maybe even 6. I loved teaching. I loved working with Tommy and Boomer and Trey and Levy on Sports Center and John Anderson and Moore and Stuart
buddy.
Scott. I mean,
yes, I know.
Every time I get in the Denver, whatever they call it, airplane rail thing.
Yeah, the monorail.
I tear up because Stuart and I used to have these incredible ab competitions where we wouldn't hold on to the bars, and he beat me every time.
That's awesome.
And late nights with Stuart and Susie, Ray, Steve, Seth, Jewel.
Greg Jewell.
Love those guys.
Yeah.
Right? I remember giving Greg Jewell my Super Bowl ring in Miami one year. Were you there that night?
I might have been.
Where some outdoor party, bar thing, and Jewell had on this cool Miami Vice jacket on. I'm like, oh, dude, I got one thing that'll make you rock so much harder tonight. And I gave him the Super Bowl ring.
He just walked around with
and
it?
And he just walked around the whole night so it wouldn't fall off. And I kept seeing him from around. And
that's amazing.
I love those memories.
Yeah, that's good.
I really enjoyed that. It just got... I don't know. I bet you Seth knew it was coming. The travel, nobody, and very few knows, but I commuted from the West Coast every weekend for 9 years
to Bristol, Connecticut.
Yes, through New York, through DC, through different places, and it just got hard on my body. I didn't like the polarization of sports that was going on.
Sure.
But no, I look very fondly on that time. I should have got out before, and I made some mistakes. And here's the other thing I've owned. I made a huge mistake by trying to leverage ESPN, NBC, Fox in a contract negotiation. Right? I made a huge mistake firing an agent to go get a more glamorous one to then get the 2 spot at Fox calling games or this or that. You know what I mean? This TV game that someone are probably going to listen going, oh, I'm playing that game right now.
No, I know that game, though.
You can't play that game and it really affected my relationship with ESPN in a negative way.
Yeah.
And it should have. As I look back on it, I would take ESPN's side over Trent Dilfer's side on this whole thing. So I could have done it in a much better way. I mean, ESPN was offering me the greatest deal ever for my 3rd contract. I probably would still be there if I wouldn't have messed it up. But, I messed it up, and you make choices. There's decisions from your choices, and there's consequences. And in my life, I've made some very poor decisions that have cost me, and I think that's one of them, and I think that's one of the – but I also look at it as a forcing function to then take me on a journey.
Yeah, God's timing, right?
Yeah, that I think I needed to go on to be where I'm at now.
Totally. I mean, that's what I see it as, too, is you can look back at it fondly. You can understand there were decisions that weren't made, but sometimes in those decisions you see God kind of working and saying, I put you in those moments for a reason. Maybe you still regret some things you did or said or whatever, but I'm going to use that for my glory. Look what he's done. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
I can talk all day, so
no, we're good, man. This is awesome. I love seeing you. I love having you on the show, and we'll definitely do it again sometime. I love when we get to connect in person at this conference. So, love you, brother. Appreciate you coming on.
Appreciate you, Jason. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching Sports Spectrum here on YouTube. You can click our next video, or you can check out our website, sportsspectrum.com.